Hello, Vermonters. We have a rather unusual situation right now in our legislature where Governor Scott has apparently indicated to the legislature that they might consider passing a law that would allow municipalities to decide whether or not people had to wear masks when in town limits. There's draft legislation now that's even maybe passed as we speak. I can't imagine this is happening because to have individual towns and then in restricting things like religious liberties and other things that have not been accounted for, from my understanding, and I haven't seen all the legislation, but it can't work. It's worse than doing nothing or doing a statewide mandate because it is unenforceable, meaning it's just unworkable. Many towns don't have a police force to employ this or the system to process them. It immediately imposes on other towns or a total network of contracts that are not set up for this. Completely unworkable. It's unconstitutional because the evidence isn't there to justify that kind of a restriction for a number of reasons. Most obvious of which is this virus is not as mortally dangerous as many other illnesses, and masking is harmful to some people. So as the governor has correctly recognized in the past, it can't be imposed on anyone regardless of their own medical conscience or circumstances. And yet that's what's being contemplated, to patchwork mix up the state this way, making it also uncivil. And so it's also ultimately unhealthy. Can you imagine if 100 people showed up in Burlington and Burlington had passed a law that you could arrest someone and put them in handcuffs for not wearing a mask, depending on where that was, and 100 people showed up and did that. Burlington is facing a criminal justice crisis right now. They don't have enough police coverage. There's graffiti everywhere. There's obvious gang or certainly very serious violence. Well, there are a lot of known gang activity going on in some of the arrests out of Detroit, New York City, and other places. Repeatedly, some of the same offenders with large amounts of deadly narcotics. And now you're going to arrest people for not wearing a mask. I mean, it just makes a mockery of the rule of law to try to pass things that are unconstitutional and unworkable, uncivil, because they pit Vermonters against one another, and ultimately really unhealthy. So this is unthinkable. And I can't imagine that if this is going to pass, that our governor won't reconsider his suggestion and say, you know what, this isn't going to work. I'm going to veto this. Because there are all kinds of reasons why it's unconstitutional. So he could just say it's not good enough. Because it's not, and it's never going to be. This is amazing, and there's been such a display of bureaucratic ineptitude by our government over the last year, and COVID is once again revealing that. We need to come together on issues that will work. So thanks for listening, and I hope you will try to influence your legislators and your governor to not do this to the state of Vermont. We value our liberty, and we value our independence, and both of those are threatened on multiple levels by this absurd legislation. Thanks again for listening.